the United States might go out there and make this an even tougher tournament for the hosts.
I honestly think that's probably what's going to happen. I mean, I feel for Mexico right now. They are coming off of 2 back-to-back losses against Jamaica, against Haiti, and being the host country, having a lot of pressure on them to succeed. They didn't make the World Cup last time, and they're pushing to make it this time. And the fact that their plans kind of unraveled on them as they did a pretty devastating loss, 3-0 to Haiti on Thursday night. It changed everything. You could see the defeat, the devastation, the anguish on those Mexican players' faces as that final whistle was blown and as that game came down to it. And for a million reasons, right? They weren't getting the win. They didn't get the 3 points. They knew that they needed to win this match over Haiti to have a better chance of qualifying for the Women's World Cup. There is still an opportunity, but in that last match for Mexico against Haiti, they suffered a number of devastating losses, injuries to their center backs, red cards. They committed 2 penalty kicks that Haiti capitalized on and scored. Another set piece opportunity for Haiti outside the box, another foul committed. But a lot of things did not go in favor of Mexico. And I'm not sure that it's going to ignite that fire in Mexico for Monday's match against the United States to come out and be this dominating force. I'm nervous that Mexico is going to crumple under this pain of knowing that now to qualify for the Women's World Cup, this mountain is incredibly, incredibly high. So they're not out. Mexico is not out of the Women's World Cup yet. However, they need to advance to the playoff tournament, the Intercontinental Tournament, after this Concacaf W Championship, and they can only advance. Mexico can only advance with a win over the United States and a little bit of help from Haiti and Jamaica. That match between Haiti and Jamaica cannot end in a tie. So Mexico needs to win. Haiti, Jamaica cannot end in a tie. And that means that Mexico only qualifies for the Intercontinental Tournament. They still have to play more matches there, win out, and then they potentially get a spot at the Women's World Cup. That's a tall mountain for Mexico to climb.
Yeah, it's I love hearing you lay it out like that, because I think if this is if you're looking at the landscape of this competition, you're saying, okay, so they could still make it. There's one more game, but there's everything else, the other layers that come in with it. So it's not just one more game, it's the final game of this group stage, and it's the final match of the group stage against the United States women's national team. And then not only do you need a victory there, which will be incredibly difficult to obtain. You're, like you said, Lisa, you're talking about the fact that they've got all these other underlying factors. I mean, they're also going to be without their starting center backs in this game. They've lost Rebecca Bernal. She went out. She exited that game against Haiti with what looked like a shoulder injury, clavicle area. And then you had Greta Espinosa pick up that red card, like you mentioned. These are their starting center backs, and they're not going to be available for this game against the United States, a team that went their first 2 games building up their score lines. So opening up their tournament with a 3-0 win over Haiti, then a 5-0 win over Jamaica. I would not be surprised if this match gets really ugly at some point. Yeah, I mean, I'm talking like maybe 6 or 7 goals. I mean, I would hate to see it, quite frankly, but it's a tall task for this Mexican women's national team, and they have not been able to play from behind. They have gone down early in both of their games, and in their second game, it only got worse as the game went on.
So I want to ask you, Sandra, as someone that is invested in this Mexican side and wants to see them do well, what do you think the conversation is right now, or the thoughts are right now with Monica Vergara, with her team, and her message to them as they head into this final do or die match against the United States?
You know, I think we heard a little bit of it already. I think coming out of the exit interviews from that match against Haiti. We heard Vergara on the podium talking about how things like this are part of the process, and that they still have a match in front of them. that she herself has, failed many times before, but you have to get back up and look ahead of you. And that sentiment was, almost echoed a little bit by someone like Jimena Lopez saying there's still another game to play. They have to have their best game against the United States. So there's it's an interesting dynamic, I think, that's coming out, or an interesting energy, I should say, that's coming out from the team right now. Because for me, as someone who has covered and followed this team for many years, seeing them go through coaching change, seeing them go this program, be part of the NWSL, and then see their federation remove their players from this league, have seen the development of their own women's professional league and the beginning stages of progress within the program. They're saying the right things, but it's not matching up with what's happening on the pitch tactically. So it's a little bit frustrating, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a word. That's a great word, frustrated.
It's a little bit frustrating for me to sort of watch this team go through this tournament in the way in which they're doing it, because I think there was a lot of coming into this tournament, especially when it was announced that Mexico was going to be the host. Mm-hmm. The energy around this team and the profile of this team elevated, I think, for many people who are neutrals of this sport, or people who just like to, the casual fan who like to see the big international tournament. Their profile elevated. Mexico women's national team profile elevated because of how they were playing going into this tournament. They had enough there to where it wasn't hype. They had a double-digit lead into this game-winning streak, undefeated streak into this tournament. You're talking about an undefeated streak that was going back into 2021. This is the same team and same coach that drew against Canada and defeated them in November of 2021 off of Canada's gold medal win in the Olympics. This same team. So you're talking about a 10-game undefeated streak heading into this tournament, dominating their qualifying process to get to this stage. They absolutely had the narrative around them that this was a tournament in which they should excel in and shine. And it's been the complete opposite for this team here.
And even with the rise of Liga MX Femenil in Mexico, and the fact that these players have so many consistent games and they have the opportunity to play, because now they have players on this Mexican national team playing in Europe, playing in the NWSL, playing in the domestic league in Mexico and Liga MX Femenil. And maybe the pressure. I mean, frustrating. 100%, frustrating is such a good word for it. And the pressure that they faced, and you see some teams really rise to that pressure, and really want to take that on head on, and it makes them stronger to connect to fire under them. But I think that Mexico felt this pressure a little too much, and because of that, crumpled, no,
right? I know I've mentioned, we've chatted a little bit about this, off mic. We text each other through the games and stuff, but bringing it here to the podcast, I mean, just watching that first game alone from this team, it was immediate. And again, it's just from years of watching the team in their games and sort of seeing them and how they start a game versus how they finish a game. There wasn't a lot of too much difference for me. I think that was using another word, going from frustrating to concerning. So it was concerning for me, for this team, because part of Vergara's sort of resume, so to speak, in terms of being a head coach, she's a great coach for developmental purposes. She is a coach that has made this program better. She has, and she is someone, as part of her resume, is the type of coach that tries to instill belief in her players. And we saw that with her time in some of these youth national teams. Obviously the U17s going to, becoming runners up in their youth World Cups. And what I saw in these first two games for Mexico, was a lack of that. was a lack of belief. That you could see it in the body language in some of the players on the pitch, especially as the minutes were starting to just tick away in this game against Haiti. I mean, you could see it, especially on a player like Greta Espinosa picking up the red, trying not to cry coming off of the pitch. It's an incredibly difficult moment to be in, and it just sort of felt like it was getting worse and worse for the team. So that part was concerning for me, that this is a coach that has that as part of her resume, that she is able to get the buy-in and the lock-in from the team, able to instill belief in players, in the system, in the program. And it just has gone, it was like a flight response. It just was like, we've seen it missing. So yes, there's one game left. It's against the United States women's national team. Are we going to see that return? Are people going to see the Mexican women's national team that they were hoping to see throughout this tournament? I don't know. I really sincerely don't know.